Where's he at? Hey, get back! Get back! You're getting shot!
What's the problem?
She's having a mental crisis, so you want to send her to the hospital.
Officer.
Not every police encounter begins with a crime. Some begin with fear. Some begin with confusion. Some begin with a family asking for help. But in modern policing, vulnerability can be misread as defiance. Unpredictability can be reframed as danger, and the need for care can be transformed into a justification for force. Stay with this documentary to the end, because what connects the cases you are about to see is not location, not age, and not circumstance. What connects them is a pattern. The moment vulnerability stops being treated as a condition and starts being treated as guilt. Across the United States, body-worn cameras now allow us to observe these moments unfold in real time. They do not show criminals being hunted. They show people in crisis being encountered by systems designed for control. And once control becomes the priority, vulnerability itself can become a liability. This documentary examines how individuals experiencing mental or developmental disabilities are criminalized not because of what they do, but because of what they cannot do. Comply, process, or respond on command. Case 1, Ryan Gaynor. On the evening of March 9, 2024, deputies from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department responded to a call from a family home in Apple Valley, California.
So that's your brother, and he's assaulting your sister.
Yes.
Okay.
Now he's banging on the door. He done broke the door. He's breaking the window.
Okay. So has he broke the window?
Yes, he broke it. Becca, what's in your room? What's in your room, Becca? What's in your room?
The call was not about a crime. It was a request for assistance. 15-year-old Ryan Gaynor, an autistic teenager, was experiencing a mental health crisis inside his home. Ryan had difficulty communicating verbally. He struggled with sensory overload and stress. These details matter because they define vulnerability.
Where's he at? Hey, get back! Get back! You're getting shot!
When deputies arrive, body-worn camera footage shows rapid movement, loud commands, and immediate escalation. Ryan is holding a gardening tool. He does not respond verbally. His movements are hesitant, uncertain. Within seconds, deputies open fire.
Get shot!
Ryan is struck and later pronounced dead. This encounter does not unfold as crisis intervention. It unfolds as enforcement. Ryan's autism shapes how he processes sound, authority, and urgency. But instead of being recognized as limitations, these traits are interpreted as resistance. Vulnerability is not accommodated. It is compressed into threat. There is no visible effort to slow time, create distance, or establish communication. The presence of an object overrides the context of the call itself. The distinction between a distressed child and a dangerous suspect collapses. Ryan is not criminalized because he committed a crime. He is criminalized because his disability prevents immediate compliance. Retention matters here because this is the first fracture point. Once vulnerability is misread, every action afterward becomes justified.
Is in many of these calls, and in both the most recent cases involving juveniles that are in crisis, we've had to use deadly force. But there have been histories of law enforcement getting involved where we didn't have to use deadly force. We've entered them into the mental health system, only for that mental health system to turn them back to the same exact situation that they were in. If you talk to parents that are dealing with kids that may be suffering from autism, a neurological disease, or certainly a mental health issue, many of these parents are confronted with, they know that what could happen. Some of these parents are experiencing violence from their own children. And because we live in a 9-to-5 world and we don't have these 24/7 resources, and many times the only situation they're able to resolve is by involving law enforcement. And the large majority of these calls, law enforcement is able to manage in a nonviolent manner. The problem is when the mental health system fails, and in this case even failed to contain him, we're forced with having to deal with problems when they are in crisis. When I talk about a mental health professional, no reasonable mental health professional, and this is the problem with having a mental health professional respond to these calls by themselves, they would still have to back off.
This
and call
case
law enforcement
exposes
to
a
take care of the
deeper
safety
structural
issue first.
problem. Law enforcement is often tasked with responding to mental health crises without the tools, time, or training to do so safely. When vulnerability is misread as threat, the margin for survival disappears. And that leaves one unavoidable question. If a family calls for help during a mental health crisis, what protection does vulnerability actually provide? Case 2, Victoria Lee. In the early morning hours of January 26, 2024, at approximately 1:30 a.m., police in Fort Lee, New Jersey responded to a series of 911 calls from a family seeking help inside their apartment. The caller was concerned about 25-year-old Victoria Lee, who had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was experiencing a severe mental health crisis. This was not a report of a crime. It was a request for medical assistance.
What's the problem?
She's having a mental crisis, so you want to send her to the hospital. Just the ambulance is fine, like.
It's a mental health. We have to send officers also.
Oh, okay.
During the first call, Victoria's brother asked dispatchers to send help so she could be taken to the hospital. He emphasized that she was having a mental episode. The dispatcher informed him that both an ambulance and police officers would be sent. The brother asked if only an ambulance could respond. He was told that police would come as well.
She has?
She has a knife with her.
She has a knife with her,
Yeah.
and she's still in the apartment?
Yeah.
She's not threatening anybody with it, though, correct?
No, not at the moment.
Minutes later, the brother called again. He disclosed that Victoria was holding a foldable knife, but made a critical clarification. She was not threatening anyone. The knife was present, but no violence was occurring. The family remained inside the apartment, attempting to manage the crisis themselves.
Who's dealing with this? Who has that knife?
It's my sister.
Who's dealing with the mental health crisis? Who's having a nervous breakdown right now?
It's my sister. Yeah, I'm not.
Who's the problem? Your sister or you?
My sister. I'm not with your sister.
Wait, hold on. Don't-
When officers arrived, body-worn camera footage shows Victoria's brother opening the door and explaining that his sister was having a nervous breakdown. He identifies Victoria as the person in crisis. The framing at this moment is clear, a mental health emergency, contained within a family home. The apartment door then opens briefly. Victoria appears holding a dog. Her mother immediately yells at officers to leave and not enter the apartment. The door is shut again. Up to this point, no one has been injured. No one has attacked an officer. The situation is tense, but controlled. Then the encounter shifts. Additional officers arrive. Commands become louder and more urgent. Officers repeatedly order the family to open the door and threaten to force entry. The focus narrows to one detail, the knife. The context of bipolar disorder, the request for medical help, and the presence of family members fade into the background.
Who wants to go less lethal? Who wants to go lethal?
I'll go lethal, okay? I want to break the door down.
Go ahead, I'll stab you in the neck.
We're going to break the door down, ma'am.
We're gonna break the door!
When the door opens again, officers shout for Victoria to drop the knife. Within moments, a single gunshot is fired.
Drop the knife! Drop the knife!
Victoria Lee falls to the floor. Her mother screams. Officers move in, asking where the knife is and attempting emergency aid. Victoria is pronounced dead at the scene. This case shows how vulnerability becomes criminalized the moment police assume control of a mental health crisis. Victoria's behavior, shaped by illness, fear, and emotional overload, does not fit law enforcement expectations of compliance. That mismatch becomes grounds for force. She is never treated as a patient in need of care. She is treated as a subject who must be controlled. The justice system responded by reviewing the shooting through procedure rather than vulnerability. In July 2025, a state grand jury declined to bring criminal charges, concluding the officer's actions met legal standards. This outcome reinforces how vulnerability is filtered out of accountability. Once illness is reframed as threat, the law evaluates force, not need. The crisis is over, but the criminalization remains. And that pattern does not end here. In the next case, vulnerability is misread even faster, in a matter of seconds, before words, diagnosis, or context can slow the trigger. Case 3. Victor Perez, when disability becomes danger. On April 5, 2024, police responded to a call in Pocatello, Idaho about a person holding a knife in a residential yard.
There was a couple up back behind their shop brandishing a knife. Looks like they're trying to stab someone. He's laying on the ground it looks like he's on drugs or something.
Victor Perez was 17 years old. He was autistic and had cerebral palsy, conditions that affected his coordination, response time, and ability to process commands under stress. When officers arrive, Perez is behind a chain-link fence. He is not charging. He is not running. Commands are shouted rapidly. The expectation is instant compliance. Perez does not respond with speed. His movements are uneven. He shifts his weight. He stands. He steps forward slowly. This is where the criminalization begins. In policing, delayed response is often interpreted as refusal. Unsteady movement is interpreted as advance. Silence is interpreted as defiance. For someone with developmental and physical disabilities, these interpretations are not neutral. They are lethal. Within 16 seconds of officers arriving on scene, gunfire erupts. Perez is shot 9 times. He falls. He is later transported to a hospital, where he dies days later from his injuries. The speed is not incidental. It is structural. The system is not designed to pause when vulnerability is present. It is designed to resolve perceived risk as quickly as possible. Ask yourself this: if compliance requires abilities a person does not have, was compliance ever truly an option?
Multiple officers responded due to the nature of the call. When officers arrived at 5:25 p.m., they saw a male on the ground holding a large knife. Here's a photo of the knife that was in his possession. Two females were just a few feet away in the yard, and another male stood just outside the fence. Officers positioned just outside the yard gave repeated commands for the male to drop the knife. He did not comply. Instead, he stood up and advanced toward the officers while still armed. At that point, officers discharged their firearms, stopping when the male fell. PPD officers immediately began life-saving measures, and the male was transported to the Portland Medical Center, where he remains hospitalized. In situations like this, officers must make decisions in seconds. They assess threats, not just to themselves, but to those nearby. In this case, 2 individuals were within a few feet of an armed, non-compliant individual. The risk was immediate, and the situation rapidly evolving.
Perez is never accused of committing a crime during the encounter. He is never given time to be understood. He is treated as a threat because he does not behave in ways the system recognizes as safe. His vulnerability becomes evidence against him. The police explanation focuses on perception, what officers believed in the moment. But perception is shaped by training, expectation, and speed. When systems are built around command and compliance, anyone who cannot comply becomes dangerous by definition. Victor Perez did not need force. He needed time. He needed space. He needed recognition that not all failure to comply is refusal. But vulnerability is not protected in high-intensity policing environments. It is penalized. Across these cases, a consistent pattern emerges. None of the individuals were committing violent crimes at the outset. None were targets of warrants. None initiated lethal force. What they shared was vulnerability, mental illness, developmental disability, or emotional distress. The criminalization of vulnerability occurs when systems designed for control respond to conditions that require care. Policing relies on compliance, clarity, and rapid obedience. Mental health crises often involve confusion, delay, and unpredictability. When these worlds collide, vulnerability becomes indistinguishable from threat. Body cameras expose how fast this transformation happens. Officers arrive with limited information. They assess risk in seconds. Training prioritizes survival. Once an individual does not conform to expected behavior, the encounter shifts from assistance to enforcement. The language changes. The posture changes. The weapons appear. Importantly, these cases are not defined by prolonged standoffs or extended violence. They are defined by speed. Seconds determine interpretation. Interpretation determines response, and response becomes final. These cases do not suggest that police face no danger or that mental health calls are easy. They reveal something more uncomfortable. That vulnerability, when unmanaged by appropriate systems, becomes lethal in environments built for force. The people in these videos were not criminals seeking confrontation. They were individuals in crisis, disability, or distress. Their vulnerability did not protect them. It placed them at greater risk. If this analysis helped you understand how vulnerability becomes criminalized on camera, share it. These conversations shape awareness, and awareness shapes policy. If you want more careful, evidence-based storytelling that examines how systems respond to the most fragile moments of human behavior, consider subscribing. Because public safety should not depend on whether vulnerability is mistaken for threat, and understanding that distinction may be the first step towards saving lives.